All of them.
This morning, Pupanji was asking what would be a good topic for us to talk about. And I said, there's a friend of mine who always asks the question, if there is no division, if all is one, how could one become two? And if one has somehow broken into two, what is it that we should do? Is it possible to do anything to make the two into one? I meant it more as a joke, but Pupulji thought that this would be a very desirable thing to ask Krishnaji, because if something has to be done, let's find out what he has to say. How do we fragment our perception? How is it that we don't perceive as a whole? That being the true, how could we perceive any other way? And since we think we perceive not as a whole but in fragments, what shall we do about it? Is there something that we can do, or are we forever destined to be in fragmentation?
Would somebody answer that question, sir? You start. That there is this your question, sir?
This is the question.
That there is one, all whole, and we human beings have broken that oneness.
Let's put it this way. It appears that we are unhappy because not everything, we are not the whole. That we are unhappy, we have anticipation, we have anxieties, we have expectations, we have disappointments, because there is something that is not ourselves. The greatest happiness is when we get to know somebody so that they become one with us. Not necessarily that they become ourselves, but we become part of them. And the greatest unhappiness is when two people who are very close no longer are so close. So we say we have separated, we are not together, we don't see eye to eye, we are not of one mind. Therefore, when we are unhappy, we think what is to be done to remove the unhappiness is for us to become whole.
Well, I'm a layman, let the experts speak.
I'm not answering the question, and neither as an expert, but see, the problem as I look at it is if I compare myself as a human being with animal.
Louder, sir, because
if I compare myself as a human being with an animal, for example, I find in the case of animals, most probably, there is not this division between the inner and the outer. And it is the peculiarly human capacity to have this, what we may call inner space. See, from my external behavior only, the others may not be able to understand me. There is something which I think is myself inside, inner space. And this division between the inner and outer,
they can't hear us.
Louder.
Very much louder.
Think that you are lecturing to a big class.
Yes, sir.
Freshmen, first-year students.
I will repeat again. See, the division between the inner and the outer, it's not working, I think. The division between the inner and the outer is not there in the case of animals, most probably, because we understand animal behavior behavioristically from outside. In the case of man, outward, the person who looks at me possibly cannot understand what I am inside. There is something which I call inner space, mine, which outward people cannot understand. And this is essentially because of what I may say reason, rationality of man. It is a rationality, and this is generally called self-consciousness traditionally. The rationality, this thought, is the reason why I have created this inner space and the outer space, which is not present. In the case of material objects, there is no inner space, so to say. Mechanically, we understand material objects. In the case of animal, though there is consciousness, there is no inner space. Animal is not capable of having this so-called self-consciousness. While in the case of man, because of this thought, which divides this total thing into the inner and the outer, the present and the future, it is this that creates the division. That is.
We have a biologist amongst us who should be able to tell us whether animals do have this problem or not.
I don't think that we're in a position right now to say, because I don't think we've ever really gone out and measured whether an animal has an inner space or not. I don't even know whether we are capable at the moment of measuring such a thing. So one can assume that an animal does not have. One could as easily assume that an animal does have an inner space and an outer space. I don't know whether the distinction is a valid one. That's the point I'm trying to make.
But are we answering, Dr. Shabbat, are we answering his question? His question, as far as I understand, why is there fragmentation in us which causes so much misery and so on? And are we ever whole? In that wholeness, there's certain quality of joy, happiness, and so on. And he says, the doctor asks why this fragmentation takes place. That's right, sir?
Yes.
If you can think of the parallel light. Light is scattered when it is passed through a prism. Some unity is there and it gets fragmented due to some factors because it passes through some medium. Then you ask the question that there was a unity and why should it be fragmented at all, and what is the method of reuniting it or gathering it up into that Christian unity again? We have already presupposed that there is and has been a unity. And perhaps if there has been a diversity brought about later which is foreign to that nature of that unity, then what is that foreign element that has entered into that original purity? We must be able to say. Somehow we must be probably able to say in our discussion.
But sir, why do we assume that there is wholeness? Why do we take it for granted that there is some state of mind or heart in which there is a sense of wholeness, completeness, a non-fragmentary state?
I was giving some suggestions that partly we feel happier when those two things which are two have become one. When two people get together, two ideas get together. I am a scientist making my living trying to put ideas together and making into one. And when you unify two theories, when you unify two people, when you see some connections where there were no connections seen by anybody else, it appears to me that I feel happier. And I've talked to some other people and they also feel happier. In our common language, when we talk about things, the unhappiness is in friends parting, in mates parting, in things which were mine disappearing from me. And the happiness is when one is no longer going to ask the question, is it inner or outer, is it mine or somebody else's idea? The best discussion is one in which you do not know where the ideas came from. The best scenery is one in which you do not see individual houses and bushes and birds and plants. The best dress is one in which you are not able to say what is the color of something that somebody was wearing. It is the harmony of of a perception which is colorful, but which is not separated out into individual things. So empirically, it appears that gathering together is very good. For example, everybody is happy that Professor Ravindra has come. Until now, we were afraid that he was not with us. Now he is with us, and there is a happiness. So you can see it on the faces of everybody here.
You can add
So,
one more.
One more.
So,
There's a lot of collection of professors, so we better withdraw. So are you asking, what is the cause of this division? Not stating that there is a wholeness.
by making both a hypothesis and a question. Hypothesis is that since we seem to be happier when people are together, when those which are separate come together, maybe this is a continuing process, that in fact when there is nothing more to be united, that when there is only one perception, that is happiness. If that is so, and which seems to be empirically a very reasonable thing to say, if that is so, how come that we are not in that state all the time? How come that we see things as different? And second, since we seem to live in a world in which much of the time things are not together, what can we do about it? Is it possible to, by thought, by feeling, by functioning, by some means, to avoid this breakage? Can we see things together? Can we mend our broken life together?
Sir, can we not say that sometimes the feeling of unity or oneness can itself be divisive? For instance, the unity that comes from belief, united belief, it gives us a sense of security and a certain wholeness. But when you put one group against another, it can be, that feeling can itself lead to divisiveness. Also, unity that comes from ritual. It may fulfill a certain need in the individual, give a certain pattern and order to life, but can also be divisive and fragmented when pitted against another group.
Sir, if I may ask, what is the cause of this division? Why is there this contradiction, this separateness? Wouldn't it be, if I may suggest, wouldn't it be better to start with, not with hypothesis, but with what's going on? Which is, you are a professor, scientist, probably very well known, and I'm not. I'm just an ordinary layman. And why is there this division, as you, with such mind, all the rest of it, and I, a villager, living in some squalid little hut? Why is there not only environmental but physical differences, different opportunities, different capacities, right, sir? And why is there this division at all among human beings? Could we start from there, rather than a hypothesis that we're all one, and at some periods of our life we become extraordinarily happy when we are together? That's perhaps a very rare occasion, a passing event which passes by like ships at night. Could we start with this? Why is there this division between you, me, and another? Would you agree?
Yes.
What causes this division? What is division? Is time a factor of division? Time itself means to divide, right? You know, etymologically. Time means to divide, disperse. Yes. Is time a factor of this division? You have studied it many, many, many years, and I have not. You have evolved in a certain direction, and I have not. So, are we divided in knowledge? Are we divided in our experiences, in our reputation? If this whole process of division taking place in human mind, human heart, what is the cause of it? So I'm submitting that it may be time is a factor. Time is inherently a divisive process.
Time also a connecting process.
No. Somebody else.
I'm just asking you, sir.
Can never be.
I'm asking in one particular sense that time may be a dividing process, but if you did not have time to connect one to the other, the sense of the fragment would not arise. It's time which connects one to the other, and therefore the very connection makes you realize that there is fragmentation.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. Come and sit here, please. You know her. The big lady from across the river. Can time bring about unity, you're asking? Or just let me...
Time makes us realize that we are fragmentary.
Huh?
Time makes us realize that we are fragmentary.
No. I'm asking, if I may, is time one of the factors of this division? Time, which is inherently a divisive process. Right? I don't know if you agree to that.
But sir, why do we talk of division at all?
What?
Why do we talk of division at all?
Because we are.
No, we talk of division because we have some concept of a whole.
No.
Let me say,
No, let us,
I feel different.
It's getting hot. Go on.
Sir, to put it very simply, I'm not talking of time. I'm saying I feel different because I experience. I experience unhappiness, I experience happiness, I experience as an experiencer, I feel I'm a different entity. Therefore, the very process of experiencing divides. It creates the me as against the other. Even though you may experience the same thing, I am also experiencing.
No,
life itself then...
But the factor which connects you to your unhappiness is a factor of time.
That's all right.
And it is the connecting link.
Which creates?
Which creates the division.
What creates division?
What creates division is time.
Would you agree to that?
Yes. But it also...
Wait, slowly, my lady. Would you say time, the etymological meaning as well as actuality, time is one of the causes of division?
Yes.
Yes. Right, sir? Would you agree to it?
But you must take the other
I
part
would
of
I'd like to disagree a little bit,
I
if I may.
would delighted, sir. Yes. I'm using the word time in its root meaning.
I realize that. I would like to say that I would like to a little sharper definition of the time. That there are two different notions of time, very much like Professor Sundaram made this example of light being dispersed. But we know that if only thing that happens is the light being dispersed, we can put them together by simply inverting another prism and putting it back. So they will go back. So the separation is really not a separation, but only an apparent separation. There are, however, situations in which once it is separated, they cannot be put together, like the Humpty Dumpty. But you could have situations in which you could put them back together. Similarly, the functioning in time involves two different kinds of time. One is the disordered time, the time of entropy, the time of events, time which creates separation. There is another kind of time which not creates unity, but which is in fact the functioning of unity. Because unity is not a state of stasis. It is not a situation of featurelessness, but in fact a functioning of fullness, a dynamic coherence. And if you have to have that particular dynamic coherence, there is a measure in which the things are taking place, which is not an external time. If a person is going to watch a dance performance and is absorbed in the thing, he must see movement. But he is not aware of the fact that, oh my God, it is already 45 minutes and she is continuing to dance. If you start thinking like that, then obviously the time has created a divisiveness. So we must distinguish between the time which is of the part of the movement, which is in fact the experience of the unity, of the richness of the unity, and the time which Krishnaji talks about, I believe, which creates divisiveness of sections, of parts. If the parts are like the petals of a lotus, which are all pieces of the same thing, then it seems they are not really separate parts, but parts which are only fulfilling the unity of the whole thing.
Right, sir.
Right.
I am separated from my wife. The reparation is never complete. Right? So that which is repaired is always breakable. Right? My wife and I have separated. Why is there this separation? That's what I'm asking, not all your marvelous theories. I'm not being sarcastic, please.
No, I realize it.
Why have I separated from my wife and she has broken with me? That is the human problem. And you're talking about the two meeting together, making a whole. Do we ever meet together? Perhaps sexually, that I'm not talking about. Do we ever meet together? Or is there always division? We may tolerate each other. You follow us a little bit? We may tolerate each other. And I consider that toleration is a form of indifference.
I agree.
So, I'm asking, I have separated from my wife. And this separation brings all kinds of anxieties, loneliness, all the rest of it. And you want me to repair that separation. Repair in the ordinary sense of that word. To bring two pieces that have been broken, put it together by some glue or some other. And perhaps the glue is much stronger than the original thing. But I'm just asking, the division has taken place. And there's always been a division. me, my wife. Me and the heavens, me and the, all the business. So, why? Not we are ever united. We were never united. You are a scientist, if I'm your wife, I'm a cook. I hope not. Please, forgive me. And what? I bear your children, I cook, I look after them. You go off to your laboratory, have a thundering good time there, and come home and chamailler. You know chamailler? That is to have squabbles. That's our relation. That's what is taking place in the world. That's actuality. And I'm asking, what is the root of this? This constant separation and constant attempt to come together. I don't know.
Could I ask a question? You distinguished between two different types of time. You said there is a time which Krishnaji talks about, which is separation, conflict, and the other time which is unity, but it is not static, it's dynamic, there is movement. Would I be right in saying that, as in Krishnaji's terms, movement is time only when it's movement from to? If there is only movement, there is no time.
Yeah, I would be very happy to agree with that. I mean, if we define time in that particular context, in which there is from to and, I mean, perception of the difference rather than perception of the motion as such, yes, that time is a sectioning, is a separation. Krishnaji, I would like to agree with everything that you say, but I very rarely find a chance to do it. But it's always a pleasure to disagree with you. One question I would like to, one point I would like to make as a respectfully is that I don't think your caricature of always being in fragmentation or it being a very rare thing is really my experience. It seems to me that the feeling of unity, feeling of, I mean, overwhelming fulfillment and motion without separation is not so rare. It is, in fact, if it were so rare, one would not pray for it, one would not wish for it, one would not hanker for it. And even, by the way, my wife does not, would be very unhappy with the caricature that you have. No, she did bear my children, I hope. But even I am now physically away from her. She is 10,000 miles away. I really don't miss her, and she would be very unhappy if I put it that way. But I do not miss her because I constantly think of her. And I think of the fact that we are one even though we are so far apart. When we were physically close together, maybe we are not so close because we may disagree about certain things. But there are many times when the difference between her and me is less than the difference between me and me. To the extent that I am able to see another person as an aspect of myself or myself as an aspect of another person, it seems to me that the differences are simply, what shall I say, simply a source of joy. So I don't want to agree to the statement that...
Hold on, sir, hold on. I'm not, first of all, I'm not making caricature of life, right? I'm stating the fact that we two are separate, basically. All this is imaginary. Actually, we're separate.
Are we separate? I always talk differently.
Wait, sir. I'm going to, at first I start, if I may, from facts. That is, I am married. My wife has her own movements, her own desires, her own ambitions, and I have my own, right? Right? There is the division. Actually, she goes off to the office, and I go off to my office. I want to become...
So the sound is gone.
She thinks differently from me. She might like me, she might love me, but she's thinking differently, different attitude, different opinions, judgment. So am I. I'm ambitious, tremendously ambitious. I want to be the Prime Minister or whatever it is. And she wants to be a success in her life, right? There is a division right away. That's all I'm talking about.
But this is also not very different from one person's desire for oneself. One time you want to be correct and be content with everything. Another moment you want to be ambitious, you want to be the Prime Minister. Another one you said, no, Prime Minister is not good enough. I mean, one must become the absolute greatest mind in the world.
Oh, rather.
Or the greatest cook in the world. Or
carpenter, preferably.
Preferably the greatest carpenter. There was a very famous carpenter who was very successful.
Oh, no. He was not very successful. The church made him successful.
But what I mean to say is that it's not only a matter of two people, it is a matter of one person being many. And that is really the problem.
That's all the same thing.
That's the problem.
Whether you say many or 1 or 10,000, that is the problem.
Can
Yes.
I clarify questions here, please?
Please.
I'm confused. Are we asking why we are separate, or are we asking whether we are separate?
Both. We're asking both. We are separate, and why are we separate? What causes this separation? That's what, I forget. Sudarshan. Dr. Sudarshan said, that's the first question. Why is there division when there is a perception of a wholeness in which one feels completely happy? That's it. So we are asking, what is the root of this separation, and can that separation ever end? What is the causation of it? And if there is a cause, there is an end to it. That's his question. So this has been a problem for most human beings, hasn't it?
Yes.
Why there is such a squabble between nations, between people, and so on, right? Why is there this terrible, destructive division going on in the world, and in me and my relationship with my wife? That Mrs. Radhaji, she's a theosophist, I am not. You are a Catholic, I am not. I'm a Buddhist, or a Hindu, or some idiotic group. And you are a scientist. So there it is, right away, this terrible division. Then, can this division end? That's my question.
I thought it was your question and you are going to give the answer.
Oh yes, President.
There is division if you're a Hindu or a Catholic, but there is no division if you're a scientist and a carpenter.
Which means skill in doing excellent work, there is no divisions. Excellency in anything expels division. He doesn't think of division, right? When he is working in his laboratory at his highest capacity, and you are working with your computers at the highest capacity, you are working. You don't think Dr. Sudarshan is different from you. You are laboring. In labor, there is no division. But he's a scientist. I'm a carpenter. Right? The world respects him. They treat me with dirt, throw me out when it suits them. There is the division. Not in labor, but in status. When I'm functioning in excellence, and he is functioning in excellence, there is no division. Just let me finish. But status divides us, which is the invention of thought as power, position, money, reputation, free passage, and everything he has. And I, poor devil, I'm working in a dirty little shop.
So if he is functioning in excellence, he is not divided. The others may be divided from him.
Ah, that just it. Others divide themselves from him.
So the question is functioning in excellence.
Huh?
So then is the question, what is the functioning of excellence? What is excellence? What is functioning in excellence?
He'll tell you. He'll tell you. That's very simple.
No, but then is that the question?
No, but I would...
And that's a very interesting question. Just a minute, let's finish that. Let's finish that. Right, sir?
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree with him. I mean, if
No, when you say functioning excellence, what does that mean? He's asking.
that's a very difficult question,
Yes,
what it
sir.
means, but
No,
you know it by the fruit. If you don't think whether you are functioning in excellence or not, when you have no comparison, then you are functioning in excellence. But I do not know, I mean, so I could rephrase my question to say, how come that I am not always functioning in excellence? How come we are not all functioning in excellence? How come if the highest is the best, how come we are choosing the next to the highest?
So if you're functioning, I'm putting an or into this and maybe altogether wrong. If you're functioning excellent in the field of knowledge, which you are, is that excellence? Capito, signore.
A little bit.
If I am functioning in the field of knowledge, which I am always functioning in the field of knowledge, is that excellence? That is always limited.
Is it possible?
Let me finish.
I think I'm beginning to get the question, drift of the question. It's
Yes,
always tricky. I have to listen to you so carefully. Yeah, what you say is that if
Just
you are
like-
in the field, excellence in the field of knowledge, are you in excellence?
You are not excellent.
No. I agree.
You agree?
I agree. I agree.
Come here. You couldn't, sir.
If you say so.
Not if I say so. Not if I say so.
If I am aware of the fact that I am
No.
in the field of excellence.
No. As long as you are functioning in the, not you, sir, as long as I am functioning within the field of knowledge, however extensive, however wide, however deep knowledge, then in that function, based on knowledge, there is no excellence. Because excellence, excel, the very word, is to reach the very highest.
Sir, are you not saying that when I am functioning...
I haven't finished, sir. May I finish what I'm saying? Forgive me if you don't mind. I won't make this point very clear to myself too. I've made a statement, I must examine it. Knowledge is always limited. There is no complete knowledge about anything. Right? Of course. You don't quibble, don't quibble.
Like to say,
Don't
not quibble,
quibble.
but only just to make clear that, I mean, I would like to ask Professor Ravindra to come to my aid also. When I talk about functioning in excellence in the field of knowledge, the emphasis is on the word functioning in excellence and not on the word knowledge. Because I have the impression that you think of knowledge, or you would like us to examine knowledge as knowledge of something rather than in being.
Now you
No, what I'm saying, I make my living by thinking and creating ideas and putting them together. Fortunately, it's a very fortunate situation because I'm paid for something that I like very much.
That's a different matter.
No, what I'm saying, but in that particular mode of functioning, if I'm sitting with my pad of paper and scribbling something or listening to somebody or struggling with something, like Jacob, fighting with the angel and then say, until you bless me, I won't let you go. You struggle with the thing and then something happens. And at that particular moment, that's what I mean by functioning in excellence in knowledge. I'm not sure whether I have communicated, but what I'm saying is I don't want to be misunderstanding your words. When I talk about functioning in knowledge, it is not acquiring knowledge, it is not propagating knowledge.
You're a scientist. Your science, the knowledge has been accumulated for 200 years, right? Of course, science. Yeah.
That's only one aspect of the thing.
It's good enough. I can invent others.
Yes. Okay.
There are several aspects of science, but the science means to know, to knowledge, right? Just accept
okay. Sure.
Just let me flow a bit.
Okay.
And you are a scientist. You have studied science. You have experimented. You have hypothetical theories. Then you attempt it, learn the falseness, the truth of it. You are always moving in that direction. Accumulating, discarding, but the process of accumulation is going on, which is called knowledge. I am saying, when you are functioning within that field of knowledge which has acquired through 200 years, I say that is not excellence. Excellence is something beyond knowledge. Right?
I hear you.
That's all. That's all.
May I ask, sir, when you're talking about excellence being something beyond, plus all the experimentation and something, are you talking about intuition?
Oh no. I'm a little frightened of that word. Sorry, I don't accept that word.
Because
No.
when you got it all, the something extra.
No. My question is, my brain is functioning within knowledge, always in the field of the known, right? And the known is always limited. You can add, you can expand, you can, the known is always limited. So my thought is also limited. Right? And as long as I'm functioning there at different levels, different dimensions, different depth, it is still in that field. Right?
So you're drawing a distinction between excellence in something and excellence.
Yes, that's all.
As long as it's excellence in something, it's obviously limited.
That's all.
No, if I may say one thing more. The scientist working in excellence in a situation, the division between the excellence in that working and the excellence of an undivided state within, are they together at that moment? Basically it is that. There may be tremendous excellence in the working without, but unless there is in the two, the within and without, are one process of excellence. Because that is the real problem in life, not the working of excellence outside or skill outside, but that the inner processes are very rarely held in that quality of excellence.
Would you consider, if I may ask, Doctor, would you consider thought can ever be excellent? Now let it go slowly.
I know I am supposed to answer no.
No. That's being clever.
No,
That's being
I'm
clever.
serious. I am very serious, Krishnaji. I mean, even though I appear sometimes to be a little playful,
No.
I am very
So am
serious
I.
because
like
in
to,
some sense
like
I
to
would
laugh.
agree with you. I mean, in fact, any time you can think that you are excellent,
think.
time you think about anything, any time you can identify a delimited functioning, which we call thought, which has risen and is seen as separate. Clearly, you are not in excellence or not in unity. But I find it difficult to, how shall I say this? When I function, the times of...
Be simple with me.
No, all right. No, I have been happy with nothing. I have been happy because I have discovered something. I have been happy because I performed a ritual. I have been happy because somebody was very good to me. I have been happy because I functioned in I said something which I did not know before.
Is happiness, has happiness a cause?
No, that's what I want to say. That's what you want to say also?
No. You're caught. You're caught.
Pardon me?
You're caught.
I am
You're
caught.
trapped.
All right, don't mind.
Because, sir, we're not fighting, please.
No.
Thought can never be complete. Thought is always limited, as knowledge is always limited. Thought is the response of knowledge and so on. I don't agree. And as long as I'm functioning with thought, which is knowledge, it's not excellent, it's always limited. That's the scientific problem. Your problem. You are discovering, right? And what at the end of it? Not as knowledge, but in human relationship. Is thought, don't want to complicate it, is thought and desire love? I love my wife. The thought of it, the picture of it, the imagination, the structure of 20 years I've built about her. Right? That is what's separating. Which is time. If you ask me, or if I ask you, is it possible not to create an image about my wife? And not gather, retain, hold, whatever insults, all the rest of it, so that I have no image about her and she has no image, then there is no division. Now, you answer me that question. Is it possible in our relationship?
It happens. It happens. I do not know how to bring it about.
That's a different matter. It happens. I don't want it to happen occasionally.
No, but it happens often.
No, it can't. If it happens often, it has a continuity. Right? So the happening is a remembrance.
Nothing like the real thing.
Yes, sir. Go on, sir. I don't, this isn't a...
Fragmentation.
Come and sit here, be comfortable, and talk. Come on.
That still leaves the problem of fragmentation with which we started. Why is it that we find ourselves fragmented, and is it possible for us to end this self-created division?
Actually, Krishnaji has shifted the gear on the thing by pointing out that if thought ceases, then if the images, the remembrances, the memories, the whole sequence of mental processes cease, and then there is no division. So we could reformulate the question by saying, how come we have thoughts?
That's right. Go on, sir, discuss it, sir.
May I ask a question, sir?
Not me, sir. Doctor, I'm not a chairman.
Dr. Sudarshan. Are we right now engaged in anything other than thought?
No, I don't think when I was listening at the moment to what Dr. Sudarshan and Krishnaji was saying, when the listening was taking place, there was no thought. Why should you take thought as a prerequisite to comprehension? I was listening to them. I comprehended. But there was no thought.
Well, that either we have difficulty about words here. I would say in my case, for example, unless there is some sort of a structure to these sentences, unless there is a logic to this, unless I know the language, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Well, I know the language.
Yes, so, but all that is what I would say is the thought.
Thought is the formation in my, of verbal formations within me. Does that listening lead to verbal formations within me?
But in an inquiry, there can be thought.
No, but when one is listening to two people having a dialogue, then the listening need not create thought within me.
No, listening need not create thought. I think when Dr. Ravindra spoke, perhaps he said referring only to listening?
No, he said, are we not all in
doctors there are here, my God.
Most of them are doctors, very few
part of the thought process.
That's part of the trouble. Too many doctors.
Sorry, this is a side joke. I said there are so many doctors here, and he said very few patients.
I was trying to place myself in the role of the patient here, sir. And I have no difficulty in accepting that I am fragmented. Not simply accepting merely as a chess move, but I, at least sometimes, am quite clear about this, that I am fragmented.
So that what so far we have discussed up to now, Dr. Sudarshan and I have said to his various questions and responses that thought is a factor of division, right? In my relationship with my wife, I like to be very near, right, sir? To go very far, I must begin very near. The very near is my wife, my world, the little world I live in. And that little world is broken up as me, my wife, me and my children, me and my nation, me and God, me and, you know, all the puja and all the rest of it. And that division is caused by time. Time being a movement, as well as thought is a movement, right? We've gone so far. And the division exists as long as I have an image, as I'm building up images all the time between me and my wife, between me and you, between me and the German, between, and so on, so on, so on. Right? We have reached that point, right, sir? To which we both agree.
I wanted to add as an aside.
That doesn't.
No aside.
Oh,
no, I wanted to add as an aside that in traditional classical notions of rasas, Sringara is not only when two people are together. There is a particular form called Vipralipha Sringara, which is when people are apart. What I'm saying is that it is sometimes very important to appreciate the togetherness to be far apart. I'm sure you are allergic to discussions of Advaita and so on, but
not allergic.
To talk in terms of
no,
Sringara.
not allergic. Don't quote me, that's all.
All right, I won't go. But what I'm saying is that even when you are with the beloved, it is the most enjoyable, most delicious moments are not when you are absolutely together, but when you are holding her face just in front of you. So it is necessary to have a slight difference.
That's all the process of thought.
Krishnaji, I have a wife.
I haven't.
No, what I'm saying is, I do know what I'm talking about.
I'm sure of it.
It's not a thought, it is experience.
Hey, you're a doctor, scientist. What is experience without the experiencer? There is no experience without the experiencer.
I'm in trouble again. Please talk something to get me out of this.
Sir, may I also take a step a little further back and maybe confess to you a heretical thought that I'm not that troubled by this, what you call division. Maybe there is differentiation.
Yes, but that was the origin of our discussion, sir, when we began. Why is there this division between the Catholic, Protestant, between Buddhist and Muslim, between Hindu, and so on, so on, so on?
But you said, you always think, somehow, whenever I hear you, you always go to the Catholics and the Protestants and the Hindus.
No, sir. And
there
also,
can be differentiation. Things are different.
So we're all different. We're all different. Difference. And he says that difference, in that difference, there is no unity. A feeling, when you have the feeling of wholeness, there is a certain quality of joy, you know, all the rest of it. And as long as that differences exist, call it what word you like, division, differences, different colors and so on, there must be all the rest of it. That's what we started out. Right, sir?
I'm sorry that he agreed to this.
No, actually, I did not. He is slightly misquoting me.
Yes.
I'm not quoting. What I understood.
No, okay, but misrepresenting.
No.
Stating with contrary to facts The point we started the discussion with just before you came was an observation that it appears that in separation, not differences, in separation is unhappiness. And in togetherness is happiness.
That's all the answer.
No, he made a distinction between difference versus separation. Differentiation he did not consider to be a bad thing, and I
agree.
Tend to agree with him.
Of course. You also use the word fragmentation.
Fragmentation, yes. Yeah.
He used the word fragmentation. That's a very important word in delimiting the discussion, that why is there fragmentation? This was the question. Then Krishnaji said, can it be traced to thought? As far as I understand.
Yes, sir.
That is where we are, and we have not come to any conclusion. We are examining whether the fragmentation can be traced to thought alone, or are there any other causes? Because he also said that that which has a cause must have an end. Now if we have said that thought is the cause of fragmentation, we have come to the end of it. But it is not that, because we are still examining if there are any other causes of fragmentation than thought. And we are going to examine them.
Linguistic,
every
climatic,
kind of
food, clothes, and environment, so-called culture. I read the Bible and you read the Gita, and he reads the Quran and somebody reads Marx. So, sir, we come to a point we're going off all the time. Agree?
So we have come to a very interesting point, and I think we should pursue it a little further.
I would like to add to this one the suggestion that in addition to thought being the cause of the thing, of images, that whenever there is a comparison, whenever there is anticipation of something and it not being satisfied, I expect that, say, Sunandaji would make something for me, and I expect one taste and the taste is slightly different. Then there is a difference. But if I'm not anticipating him, so it seems to me, in addition to thought, there are also a question of comparison. It's another, seems to me, I would like to distinguish it between these two mental activities of comparison.
We also examine time, but I think in conclusion.
Comparison, Achuji, he's saying, is one of the factors of fragmentation, which is measurement. Measurement is time.
Well, we probably will not quite agree with you. But time is measurement, but measurement is not time.
Go into it, go into it. I'm open to correction.
I have not understood.
In talking, we talked about two different kinds of time, and I tried to illustrate it by following Professor Sundaram's example of light being dispersed. Actually, it's a very unfortunate word. Light being displayed as many different colors, the peacock colors. But then if you put another prism just at the other side, the whole thing is recombined. So you see these two as two different aspects of the same thing. It has not been dispersed at all. It has only been displayed. It is very much like you look at an object, a piece of sculpture face on, then you went and looked at it from another side. And of course you see a different picture, but you have not lost the original picture. But there is another kind of dispersal which it cannot be put together, like Humpty Dumpty, which fell down and could not be put back together. If there is an evolution, a process, happening which has lost something because you cannot recover the original one, that particular thing produces a different order of evolution. Now, I would like to consider the second kind of development to be the time that Krishnaji is talking about, because he is obviously not wanting to abolish time. Joshua held up the hand and prevented the planets from moving, but that's not the thing. That we want to have a time which is a component of a dynamic evolution, but we do not want a time which is the cause of dissolution, which is not necessarily total cataclysmic dissolution, but dissolution in the sense of entropy production, in terms of disorder, in terms of losing something. And I think Professor Ravindra or somebody else, I think you brought it up, the fact that in time is not necessarily a dissolution, not necessarily a comparison, but an unfolding, a transformation, but a transformation being reversible, you could put it back together. So we must distinguish between these two senses of time, and I assume that when Krishnaji talks about time, he's talking about the second kind of time.
Yes, sir.
There is a very simple Malayalam song which says, which starts with the phrase, Samayamam Rathathil. I mean, consider time as simply a chariot, as a thing by means of which you go from place to place, but nothing has happened. You simply see things. You perceive the fullness of things by seeing the various aspects of them. So if you have a cycle of events, if you have a complicated rhythm, and the rhythm is expressed in time, that time is not a dissolution, it is a disordering time. But if in the process of time something has been lost which cannot be gained back again, that is a dissolving time, a dissolution, disordering time, a time which is bad. And in the second kind of time, there is a comparison between the initial and the final state, between the starting and the ending. The ending is not the same as the first one. Ending is seen as separate from the first one, and the ending is less than the beginning. In that case, of course, you have something has happened. So whenever we talk about this kind of time, there is a measurement. There is a measurement of the order, and then you say the order has increased from one situation to the other one. There is a comparison, configuration. You look at the watch and then say, oh my God, the time has passed, because you are comparing two configurations. And when you say, oh, it has been too long or too short, we are comparing one anticipation with another anticipation. But if you are enjoying something, then there is no sense of time in that thing. You know that something is unfolding, but it does not involve a comparison and anticipation.
Could I have a question? I would like to bring it back to 2 points. One is what Achyut raised, and that is the question of fragmentation. And the other, Krishnaji agreed when you said, Professor Sudarshan, that the reason there is fragmentation and division is that we think at all. Now, Krishnaji has also stressed that we should observe things the way they are. Observing now what is happening, I would say that there is an awareness of separateness here, simply because we think, we classify, we categorize, and so I would like to echo Ravi Ravindra's question. What are we doing right now, which is supposed to be a laboratory? I imagine we were invited because we're good symptoms of the disease, being the doctors.
Take up, it's in your court, sir.
I give it back to you, sir.
So, we reached a point, as far as I understand, we both agree, both see the same thing. When we see the same thing together, there is no division. Not agree. Right? We rarely see the same thing together because we are divided. Our thought is one of the, perhaps the major cause of the division. And also you said comparison, which is measurement. I am not, you are. You are beautiful, I am not. You are in, and so on. This constant comparison, which is measurement. I'm short, you're tall. I must be better, and so on. Now, is not comparison a part of time? I am not, I will be. Which is comparison. Right, sir?
Yes, yes. I understand now what you meant by comparison.
Which is measurement is time. Which whole scientific, technological world is measurement. If you have no measurement, there will be no technology. It starts with the Greeks. I'm going to, you know that. So, if you admit measurement, which is time, which is comparison, which is thought, right? All that are, those are divisive factors. Then the question arises, which you put really, and we've gone away from it, can thought end? You know, can thought end? Can thought, has time a stop? To quote Shakespeare a little bit. I'm not a scholar, but time has a stop. Can there be? While you are accumulating knowledge, forgive me, as a scientist, as a carpenter, I prefer carpenter, or you prefer scientist. I am a carpenter. As long as I am an apprentice and learning, till I reach a certain stage where I think I've got most of it, that is the same as yours, right? And that has taken me time, it has taken you time. You have measured, I have measured. I was apprentice, now I'm a master carpenter. So, time, I'm saying, and thought are similar. Both are movements. Right? And that is the factor of division. That is, whatever is limited, and knowledge is limited, must create division. And as long as I'm living in that, the known, I'm going to keep on dividing, fragmenting. Now, is it possible to be free this of the known? Not hypothetically, not as a theory, not as a question to be bandied about, but if one puts that question seriously, is there an ending to time? Not the time of, you understand?
Sir, I have an observation and a question. If I am understanding you rightly, that
you're not understanding me. You're understanding what has been stated, which may be false, which may be right.
About the question about ending of time, it seems to be intimately connected with the quality of attention.
And then we have to inquire what's attention. Yeah. No, we go off. But first, if I may put that question, can thought end? So surely, as a scientist, as an engineer, from the bullock cart to the jet, that is time. But to discover the jet, you have to put away all the engineering, piston and all the rest of it. You have to put away all that. And be open to something that may, you know the science, all the rest of it. Right? Put it in your own language, they're all understanding.
But I think there are still questions.
I'm
tempted to ask a supplementary question, but I would like to get that again.
Why don't you ask the questions now?
No, I'm going to go one step beyond this one, and I would
so
first get this.
Ahead.
No, I was going to say, then the question arises, since it appears sometimes the time has come to an end, and then again it turns out like allergies, they come back again, why does it come back again? That I don't know how exactly to say it, because I know as soon as I say this, Krishnaji could ask the question, and he does, but this time he won't, saying that your statement that sometimes it did happen is a memory, it's a thought, and therefore that's not your experience, that's hearsay, I mean, not admissible evidence. But talking in ordinary language, it appears that somehow or other that there are times time has ceased. I mean, 2 days ago, a friend of mine came to see me and he said, I want you to do your morning devotions in my presence because I am feeling disturbed. He's a psychiatrist, so he's naturally disturbed. So I did it, and both he and I felt that nothing could possibly go wrong with the world. But then Radhika is sitting next to me and she already said about rituals dividing people, but this was a ritual which united me. But what I'm saying, this was early morning, I mean, sun was just rising and nothing could possibly go wrong with the world. But then yesterday I had to travel by second-class train and it was strenuous, it was difficult,
everything
and
went
it was
wrong.
hot and mosquitoes and all kinds of things. Some things go wrong. So these are both qualities of experience, and I'm glad that I did all these things, and I'm glad that, but at the moment nothing could go wrong. I'm with Krishnaji and with all of you, nothing could go wrong. But I know after a while I will have a little headache and a little cough and a little this and that and all kinds of things, things could. How come from this unfragmented state where time has ceased, time sort of comes back again to Hydra? But before we go into that, I thought we would like to get a little more expression of agreement or disagreement.
Sir, I heard Giscard d'Estaing, when he was the Prime Minister, he was talking on the television, telling the French people, La France est stable, firm, steady, strong. Go for your holidays happily. Next day, there was a colossal strike. Your puja, and it's said.
So, sir, what you're trying to say is that feelings of unity may have nothing to do with real unity.
Of course.
No, but I want to ask this question again. There is a scientist looking at data before he formulates hypothesis or refutes hypothesis, just looking at data, or a botanist looking at a new tree, or looking at a woman for the first time. There is a looking, and then it becomes knowledge. It is.
I don't quite understand.
I'll explain. There is a looking. What Sudarshan says, there is a timeless state. There is a looking without thought, but then it becomes knowledge. It ends. That state ends.
Only when thought creates the image in the looking.
Yes. So I am asking. Yes, of course. Huh?
I am agreeing with you. I'm surprised myself.
No, but I am questioning that. If there is a looking in which thought can enter, the image can enter and create knowledge and memory, has there been looking at all?
Yeah, of course. That is the point.
Sir, doesn't the clue, forgive me for asking, but doesn't the clue seem to rise and rest in that instant?
What?
In that instant.
In that?
Instant.
Instant. Moment.
Before anything happens, before thought arises, before what he calls that instant, just before it arises, I think to feel that the clue to all fragmentation or the other rests in that instant. And is it possible to negate everything which comes in the way of that instant being a direct whole perception?
Suppose that arises, who is the entity that negates?
Entity that negates.
You're back, be careful,
No,
you're back in the same old
perception
field.
negates. Why do you say that, sir? perception negates.
No, don't negate, that's what I'm saying.
Then what do you do?
Answer that question.
I think I know the answer, how to put it. As long as you say someone...
Be careful, I'm listening to you.
Yeah. As long as you say someone negated, that person is standing behind to be able to wipe it off. As long as, if you can say that there was perception without a perceiver. Now, I know you mean exactly the same thing as what I say, namely that there was no perceiver. But you see, if you said that perceiver was removed, then there was an active agent who removed that perceiver.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any kind of complexities. You see, these are, if you keep on at this, then it just refuses to dissolve this.
No, I think Krishnaji is asking me to make a pedagogic point. After all, I'm a teacher. So, namely that we must shift emphasis from the negation of the perceiver to the statement that of perception by itself. And therefore, as long as one says that I must not do this, I must not be the perceiver, there is that I who is waiting to jump.
I am saying that in the very fact of listening, observing, before anything comes into being, there is a certain space. I don't say anything about I negate or there is space. The clue to whether there is something which is whole or something which is fragmentary rests in that. And I'm putting it before you.
Would you say perception is only possible when the brain is still? Right?
Don't know about the brain.
Oh, no. When there is
stillness.
Yeah, I don't like to use that word. Yeah, let's call it. When the whole physical organism is still. That means there are no sensory responses.
What did you say?
No, I don't accept that.
No, please repeat it. You said when there are no sensory responses, but the sensory flow is there. You see, the sensory responses are different from the sensory flow.
No, I think, again, let me act as a teacher for a minute. It seems, if I understand it right, the statement is that when there is no separation between the stimulus and the response, when one cannot separate those, so that if clearly one would not want, I did not want Krishnaji to say the brain is still because then the person is dead. But it is, you're receiving signals and reacting to it, you're shifting your toes and, scratching your nose, but it is simply not seen as separate things. No stimulus and no response to the thing. That there is a homeostasis, there is a functioning without fragments in the external world.
Yeah, that is, yes.
But if I understand Pupulji's point, what she is saying is that could we not focus attention on the moment of total perception? Isn't there that the clue lies about what does possibly go wrong afterwards?
Yes, out of that, whether the fragmentary or the other. Both are potential there.
I think this is a question which we all want to get answered for.
What is the question, sir?
The question is that she says the moment of total perception is the clue, because in it, since it is a total perception, in it must be the clue whether you fragment afterwards or don't fragment afterwards.
That means an insight, you can use that word without too much analytical splitting of that word. If we can say where there is insight, perception, depth, and all the rest of it, why does it disappear and fall back into the old tradition? Now, I would like to, before answering that question, sir, our existence, I'm talking of existence, our life, is a tide going out, a tide coming in, right? Tide that can go very far, tide can come right up at great speed or very slowly. That is action, reaction. That is reward and punishment. Same movement, I'm putting it differently. Now, perception only takes place, I'm just positive, I may change it. Perception only takes place when this movement out and in stops. Right? Right? And first, let's be clear that what I'm saying.
No, if I may make this thing. Before we even come to the point you pose, can there be a slowing down of the inner processes of time? You see,
I wouldn't put it as slowing down. That Christ, when he used the word slow, a measurement, time and all, I wouldn't use that word.
So we can't take leaps the way you take leaps.
No, I would, just a minute, Pupuli, have I made this question that our life is a tide going out and coming in? Yes. Right, sir? Would you agree? I
was going to make a supplementary remark. I mean, I was talking with a friend of mine who has been practicing yoga for a long time. I mean, he's a chemist. I mean, so it's a safe man. And what he was saying was that he was being quite puzzled by certain statements in traditional texts. And he said, I can develop chittavstartha, that is, of function of perceiving the physical extension of the person to be not just the body extension, but in fact connected with much of the universe.
Yes, yes.
He says, I have done all these things and all those things function, but I cannot move a blade of grass in a fashion which anybody else cannot move with regard. So the question of in and out could be a situation in which you talk about, you make yourself smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest, in the sense that you really don't see a separation between you and the rest of the world. You see the tides, you see the ebb and flow, but you do not see what is you and what is not you.
No, that is me.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Right, sir?
Yes. Let's get this also to...
So,
not me, sir. I don't want to hold the fort.
So isn't this connected, this ebb and flow intimately connected with a sense of future?
Of course, it's the whole reaction.
With the sense of my own future?
No, look, we said, Pupuji asked, if I remember rightly, subject of reaction, that only in perception there is no time, if I understood it right. And I said, perception can only take place when this ebb and flow stops. That's all.
Must lie the clue to both how and why do we immediately after that become fragmented again.
I think I can answer that question.
I said this. I said in that instant, prior to manifestation of anything, rising of anything, there is the potential of both.
This way or that?
There is the potential of the fragmentary, there is the potential of the total.
Would you
And I still stick to my point that even this ebb and flow is a concept.
No, no.
I'm saying it unless
my life,
one can first slow down the movement of thought and time within one.
I don't want to slow it down.
You know as well as all of us that he will never agree to a process which is gradual. Either it is or it isn't. But your point is a very important point.
I'll catch it. I'll catch it very well.
Please tell us.
No, sir, just little. I was discussing this question with Dr. Bowman, another professor of that quality. And I said, subject to your correction, please. I said, when there is such perception, the cells in the brain change also. So that there is no falling back. The falling back is when the whole, you understand what I'm saying?
So now our question is that how come our cells don't do this? Because we always seem to come back to...
Yes, sir. I'm saying we always come back because there is no fundamental change. That is not a slow process of change, but immediate change. Immediacy, I'm using that word not in sense of time.
Cataclysmic change.
Yeah. No. That's too drastic. No.
Total transformation.
Not transformation, not from one form to another form.
From form to all potential, or formlessness, creative formlessness.
No, I won't use all those big words.
But sir, let me ask you one thing. This state of perception, in which obviously thought plays no place,
what?
In which obviously thought has no place,
yes,
which is the direct contact with the brain cells themselves if they are going to mutate, has to come into being. Now, you don't tell us how it comes in.
No, I'm showing it to you. Oh no, I'm showing it to you clearly. That when there is an insight, when there is pure perception, the whole conditioning has gone fundamental change.
Right. May I go pursue this? Does this mean
you can never become violent again?
Please let me. Does this mean that every insight, please listen.
I know you're going to catch me. I understand
every
the
insight.
No. Insight. Right?
Every insight.
What are you saying secretly?
No, sir, there is every insight, because it is a direct touching of the brain cells.
You follow? They accept the two top scientists.
No, but I mean,
and I question after they accept it, I say, my God, is it so?
No, but they may accept it, but their brain cells haven't changed.
No, of course, they just a
so
theory.
They're just
a theory.
You see. So I'm asking that every insight must have some operation on the brain cells.
No, darling, just a minute. I'm saying one thing. If you have an insight into violence, most human beings are, if you have insight into it, in the insight, which the word which I am using, which is my meaning, not my meaning, the meaning, the significance of it, there is a radical change in the brain cells. You are never again violent.
So, sir,
swallow it. No, just, you don't accept it. Just look at it first before you deny it.
No, you can't deny it.
No, sir.
See, because...
No, you can deny it because you deny it when you become violent.
No, but I deny it when I know the nature of insight.
I'll tell you what's the nature of insight. Insight in which there is no remembrance, no time, no interference of thought. When there is no interference of thought, no time, your whole conditioning is broken down.
Yeah.
It's not a series of insights.
But you tell me...
Wait. It's not series of insight. Of course, then you are allowing time and all the rest of it. To have an insight, a profound, you understand all that.
But sir, look, sir, last night when we were discussing, we came to a very profound moment when many of us felt we had a direct comprehension of what was being said. Now, I would say that is insight. I am not worried.
I wouldn't call that insight. Question.
Then we are lost because we don't know what it is.
I wouldn't call that insight.
Why?
Because there was, no, don't let's enter.
No, but let us know why.
Because, no, I wouldn't like to discuss that because these people weren't there yesterday.
No, it takes any other discussion.
No, I'm taking a very simple daily fact, which is violence. Man is violent and so on. An insight into violence ends completely all violence.
Would you say
Sir,
that? Sorry.
Please.
There's an insight into violence, and not only violence. I'm asking you.
Violence means comparison. Violence means imitation, conformity, all that. Violence is not just anger and hate.
No, I understand. But does then violence include indifference, greed?
No,
Would you say
not
insight into violence destroys, removes everything?
What is that? I don't quite follow.
She asked, does any insight into violence destroy not only violence but all other, what shall I say, impediments or negative things?
Well, I don't know what you mean by negative.
You said that once you have an insight into violence, but comparison, time,
violence. You know what violence? It's not just anger. It's not just hate.
So may I ask the question? Her question is, if you have insight into violence, you say violence ends. Then do you need to have insight into anger to end anger? Do you need insight into sorrow to end sorrow? I think that was the question. Yes. But I think your statement also, if I may say so, has to be put differently. You can't have insight into violence which ends violence. You have insight or you don't. If you have insight, there can be no violence.
That's it. That's all I'm saying.
You can't have insight into it.
Well, sir, since clearly there is such great importance attached to insight, I therefore now wish to ask, here I am, a man without insight, and I understand the word.
I'm not sure, sir, when you say I'm a man here, doesn't know what insight is. I'm not sure you're being accurate.
No, I think what he's saying is that he accepts the fact that this total insight is so blinding or so much of an elixir that St. Paul on Damascus
No. St. Paul in Damascus on his way had a sunstroke.
But anyway, it is blinding.
It's sunstroke. I've had it. So, you know, St. Paul and I have...
Well, we'll leave St. Paul. But you said that the blinding insight is such that it is not a case of something being temporarily seen, something being acquired, but in fact, the fact that it has ceased. Yes. I mean, the doubt, the confusion has ceased.
That's all.
He says, look, I've had little things, but I don't have that blinding insight. Please give
also, it. Sir, you have really just substituted one word for another.
No, I'm not.
You said, in order to have this radical change, one needs insight.
Yes.
Well, that's all right. So that's fine now. But what do I need in order to have this radical insight?
I'll tell you.
Please.
We start it all over again.
Well, it's always
what
the
time is it?
11:15, sir.
11:15.
All right, I'll tell you. Would you admit that thought is limited? Huh? Right? Knowledge is limited. They're related, thought and right? They function like the computer in the field of the known. Right? Right? I mean, not agree, but that's a fact. The computer works in the field of the known. That known may be encyclopedic and so on and so on. I function always within the field of the known. There may be occasional, I'm not talking the occasional, but the fact that both computer and I function within the field of the known. Right? The known is the remembrance. Right? The remembrance is the accumulated experience in the past. Right? The past is the observer. Go. The past says, don't do this. That's a snake, don't go near it. Right? So the past, which is the accumulated experience, right, which is knowledge, which is thought, right? So the past is controlling, shaping, and so on, modifying the present, and the future goes on, right? This is all obvious. So we are functioning as a computer does in the field of the known. And as long as there is action within the field of the known, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Right? Because it's fragmented, and the problems created within the field of the known are innumerable, right? And thought is trying to solve them, which is in the same field. Right? Am I all right so far? Right? Agree? Add little bit.
No, I was going to say that there are thoughts which seem to serve to end thoughts. There are thoughts which...
But it's still thought.
I know, that is in fact our problem. I mean...
Yes, sir, that's what I'm saying. Right, sir, so far.
No, what I'm saying, it does not become worse and worse, it probably becomes more habituated and maybe...
That's anything, put it any way you like.
Because this is what we are all...
Sir, the problems in this world between human relations are getting worse and worse. Squabbles, misery, you know. And thought is trying to say, my God, I must do something about this. Having created it, starts... Right? That's all. And as long as we live in this field of the known, we cannot solve human problems. The human problems are created by thought. Of course, come on, this. Right?
All right, sir.
it's a little difficult to disagree with you without sidetracking things. So I will.
I'm not sidetracking.
No, I will sidetrack if
Then we are not meeting.
Can I come back to this question of the mutation of the brain cells?
What?
Mutation
of the brain cells.
How do you know that the brain cells undergo mutation?
I don't know.
It's very important. So you don't know, but you're saying.
Moment you know, it is not.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. So why do you say that it undergoes?
In fact, I was also going to suggest that perhaps you use it in a stylized sense. We don't, I mean, I find it very difficult to think that the brain cells are really my cells. I mean, it's...
No. The brain cells contain the memory and all the rest.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, they are devices.
And therefore it's me that's...
Yeah, what you mean is that, in some sense, a total mutation of the whole apparatus.
Yes, sir.
And it could be material apparatus, or it could be the software. I mean...
The psychological apparatus I'm talking about.
But there is a little bit of a problem in this kind of statement, because we are always told that when you really fall in love, you have fallen in love. But how do you know if you never fall out of it?
No. Don't let's say falling in love and falling out of it. I question all this. It may be pure sexual attraction.
Right, but how are we to know? The question is, how do we know that we have seen? The answer you have to give is that when you never are out of it.
I think
we should
stop for today. No, I must finish this. If you and I both see the fact that in the known human problems can never be solved. That's a large pill to swallow, but it's a fact. Even doctor agrees with me. Right? Right? If you say that, you're already moving out of it a little bit. That human problems can never be solved in this field. That's what we were discussing last night at dinner table. Then you have to look around to find something which will answer human problems. If it isn't thought, because thought has created the problem, right? Then you have to look around, find what is there. And Dr. Sudarshan comes along and tells me, well, chap, if that is so, then you have to have a perception so pure, so profound depth to that perception, which is an insight, that will change, bring about a mutation in your conditioning. He's told me that. I say I don't believe him. I'm skeptical. So, but I'm investigating. I'm probing, digging, right, into his statement. He goes away. I shan't see him till next year. But I hope I'll see him again a few days later. But he's gone. So I've got to find out. Right, sir? That's all. You want to be told. I don't want to tell you. And therefore you are both the teacher and the disciple. That's all. Right, sir?
Yes, in other words, you don't want it to become another thought, another part of knowledge.
Yet.
It still leaves us where we are.
Huh?
Well, slightly further, but... No.
No, exactly there.
Huh?
No, it leaves us within ourselves. That is.
I know.
Not within ourselves.
No. Sir, you tell me this. That knowledge, within the known, there is no answer to human problems. That's a tremendous statement. from you. I receive it partially doubtful, partially inquisitive, partially analytical, skeptical, which all means I am not listening to you at all. When I listen to you, that doesn't exist. What you have said is true, right? Therefore, the thing has transformed. Not transformed, has mutated. When you say something, and I see the absolute truth of it, there is a flash of light, as you said. But that flash of light is not intermittent. It is an occasional summer thunderstorm. It is that truth which you have told me is so blinding, right? That means I must be so attuned with you. You understand, sir? What you say is not yours.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
So you say, as long as we say, please tell us, we are listening to you, we are not.
Yes. That's your relationship with your students. It's about you and I. We better stop. Well, we've stopped.